Hello everyone and welcome to the 7th episode of the TempoCast. Joining me today, as always, is the Aussie Thunder Down Under, Nocturne.
G'day, guys.
His partner in crime, TheKamsh.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And the Tempo Lord over...
TempoStorm.
Okay, I don't...
It's Reynad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today we're going to be talking about, obviously, Reynad. We're going to be talking about TempoStorm in specific, because obviously we've got Reynad here. And we're going to be talking about a little smidge of ladder, and obviously those amazing Reddit opinions that everyone always loves will be tacked on sort of at the tail end of the show. Let's start by talking about you, Reynad. Why don't you talk to us about TempoStorm, what TempoStorm is, because obviously us at the TempoCast have absolutely no idea what TempoStorm is. Why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, basically it's an esports organization. Like if you've heard of TSM or Cloud9, Liquid, Evil Geniuses, Navi. I mean, there's a lot of organizations like that. So we're one of them. We basically have professional players across a lot of different games. And yeah, they fly all over the world competing internationally, and they play a lot of online events. So yeah, if you're a fan of what we're doing in Hearthstone, and we kind of like branched out into Heroes of the Storm, Counter-Strike, and we're really trying to peg ourselves as kind of like not just another esports team that that tries to get the best players and market that way. We do a lot of like event hosting, and we do a lot of things to try to like grow the community by just doing like innovative stuff that hasn't been done before, like Lord of the Arena. Like I was the first streamer or player or whatever to ever host a tournament. And that was Lord of the Arena, and it was like pretty successful numbers-wise. The community liked that, and we just did Challenge Stone last month. It's just stuff like that we do. We're gonna start doing those things more and more often, and we have the website and everything. We're just kind of all over the place as far as the games we're involved in go.
Cool. So TempoStorm has its hand in a lot of the different game puddings, basically. Do you think TempoStorm is comfortable with where it is right now, or are you looking to expand TempoStorm as time goes on and stuff like that?
It'll definitely expand a lot more. Honestly, we've been around for like a year, and it's absurd how, like, the size of the organization, given how, like, such a short time it's been around. I don't know of any other org that's existed for a year and has had more than one team. Like, it might have happened, but usually expanding into other games is like the very last step, whereas we're trying to get into these scenes as early as possible to just get our name out there sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely going to grow a lot more in the future. Still looking at League of Legends, stuff like that. But I mean, it's every time you add a team, it adds like 6 hours to my workday, and it adds a lot of just cost. Honestly, like,
yeah,
it's expensive as hell.
Now, Nocturne in particular was tuning into your stream. It mentioned that there was a little bit of a in crowd going on there. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. We're probably gonna have like an official announcement for it soon, like this week hopefully. But we're doing a like animated series. It looks kind of like Family Guy, but 3D-ish. The animator's a great guy, super talented, and yeah, we've been recording like we were working on a script for like a month for the first few episodes, and then we were recording the audio at Seat Story, but it wasn't quite right, so now we just re-recorded the audio last week, and he's putting it all together, and it looks pretty good so far. I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, as long as the writing behind it's okay, I think people will find it funny, they'll respond well. I think it's just a pretty cool, different thing that people can check out on the YouTube channel in a week or so when it's out.
Yeah, it sounds really cool, like a great way to engage with the team and what's going on there. So are you planning on having team members voicing their own characters and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We have probably going to have guest characters too from just the community and stuff. I'm probably going to branch outside of Hearthstone too. It'll just be kind of this. I mean, I think it's the first like animated series based around an esports team. I don't know. I don't know if it's existed. We'll see if it goes well. I don't know. I just like trying different stuff.
Yeah. Keyword being different. That is definitely something that absolutely no one's seen before, and I think it could be pretty cool. So most recent pickup actually on the team was the FIFA pickup. Do you want to kind of explain that and why? Because when people think esports, I don't think people think like FIFA,
Right, yeah. Basically, esports is pretty huge, but if you ask anyone to name a professional Indian esports competitor, no one can name one, which is kind of absurd given that the country has like a seventh of the world's people in it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely massive. And a lot of it's because of like the internet speed over there, I think, but basically, I really want to I really want TempoStorm to be an international organization. There's actually a pretty huge divide when it comes to esports between West, Europe, and like China, and Korea. Even there, China and Korea sometimes mix players, but it's uh it's like a very segregated market right now, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because all of us are running businesses with like 50 employees out of our computer with people all around the world. So I'm really trying to like pick people up from all over the world, which is why I know we have Europeans. We're picking up a Chinese player soon that we'll announce within a week or two. And yeah, Santanu is actually the most, how do I put it? He's probably the most well-known Indian professional player. I know that FIFA is not the most popular game. A lot of people never watched it or even know that it exists just because it's not on Twitch. But his story is pretty crazy. He's had like over 50 articles published about him in papers in India, which have way more reach than American papers, for example, just by the sheer amount of people reading them.
Yeah.
And I mean, he started off like playing some local tournaments for FIFA, and then one day there was a big tournament in India, but it was not in his city, so he like ran away from home with no money, locked himself in the bathroom of the train, stayed in there for like 2 days while it rode over to the city where the tournament was. He goes to the tournament, he sleeps outside like in the alleyway for like 2 days, wins the tournament, and then goes back home with a job offer and some money, and he just kind of snowballed that into a career. And now he travels to Malaysia, China, Singapore, all over India. He really is just competing regularly now, and he's doing it full time for a living. And yeah, it's a pretty just like inspirational story. So I'm pretty happy to be the first esports organization to pick up an Indian player, which is absurd. I mean, the country has 1 billion people. I don't know how it hasn't happened up to this point, but yeah, he's a guy who's not going to have a lot of like social media or Twitch presence or anything, but he has a lot of kids that look up to him in India, and I'm just happy to give him like the support he needs to travel more than he can right now.
Yeah, talk about a passion for esports. Holy moly. It's pretty inspirational. So it's understandable, obviously. I think you've explained it before why League of Legends hasn't made an entrance into TempoStorm, but do you want to give a little bit more background as to why we haven't seen a League of Legends team?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna say the exact number, but it's really fucking expensive to buy a challenger team.
Yeah.
And even then, it's a gamble because you have to. I don't know. You have to like buy them after they qualify or something. It's a very, what I'm assuming is corrupt system, but I haven't like looked into it yet. Everywhere else in the world where you're trying to like break into a scene like that, that happens in very sketchy ways. So with League of Legends, it's like Riot has a lot of rules that let the little guys get in, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But like, for example, a big organization, lots of money, they can only have one team in the LCS, that's like the big series in League of Legends. That's where you matter if you're in it. So those big teams, they end up picking up challenger teams, which is like these up-and-coming semi-pros. And those challenger teams can break into the LCS at these promotion tournaments. So basically you have to like pick up a challenger team right after they qualify, or maybe right before, and then just like gamble that they win the qualifier tournament. I'm not sure how it works. The point is, you usually have to buy these challenger teams from the bigger organizations, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to look into it more when... Like, I know a ballpark of what it's going to cost, and it's not something that I'm going to look into for another, like, 6 months or so.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that's going to happen within a year.
Okay. So you mentioned kind of like the health and corruption of esports. How do you feel about the esports scene in general? Like, do you think it's healthy? Do you think it's growing healthily? Or do you think there's a little bit more of a seedy underground that we don't really see?
No, it's not that seedy, honestly. Like... It's, how do I put it? Yes, there are corrupt things that happen, but that's true with, like, any industry.
Yeah.
And as far as esports goes, I'm very picky about trying to do, like, good business and not do, like, taboo things or things that end up being really bad for the scene. Like, for example, a lot of the conflicts between organizations comes in just, like, bidding wars over players, which is fine because the player's winning there, he's getting a better price. But then it's like, if somebody signs on to a team, if it's like a smaller, lesser-known team, you get these other teams like trying to come in and poach him and just ignore the contract that he signed with one org, and things like that are really unhealthy. There's also just like a big segregation between Twitch esports organizations and MLG esports organizations.
Yeah.
MLG literally only have Call of Duty and not for long, and that's like they still have an absurd amount of following just because of how big that scene is in Call of Duty, but like they come in throwing money at Twitch teams trying to buy teams out from under them, and it's insulting, it's bad business, and they don't go straight to the owner and just try to negotiate in a fair way. So like things like that bother me, but honestly it's not too corrupt of a scene. It's pretty healthy overall. Most teams, especially the Western teams, super professional in how they handle stuff. Very, yeah, they just very good guys to work with. You know, big fan of Jack owns Cloud9, and like Reggie owns TSM. They're all good guys there.
Cool.
Is there
in the right way.
Is there a case for, sorry Reynad, as the esports scene develops, just because there's going to be more money entering, there's more opportunities for corruption and these sort of shady business practices as you're talking about, do you think we're going to face a lot more, I guess, regulation of it as it goes on?
Well, it's tough because esports as a thing exists, right? But there's no one person that owns any of it. Like,
sure.
For example, there's lots of different games.
Is it not you?
Well, you know, 10 years from now, yeah. There's like all these different game developers that own their respective game, but a lot of them don't even support the competitive side of it. So a lot of it is just these like third parties putting on these tournaments for these games, and you know, sometimes the developers used to even fight it. Like Nintendo used to fight Smash Bros. Melee being a thing, but then now they're coming around to seeing it as like free marketing. Might as well. They don't have to support it. They just don't have to fight it. So basically, there's just a lot of these different groups that control different small parts of esports, and collectively, it's esports, and there's no way to really regulate it collectively. You just kind of have to step by step weed out the problems, I guess.
Yeah, as they come up. Yep.
So it's like socially, just like in every day-to-day life, when you tell people what you do, right? Is there like a specific phrasing that you use so that you're not like, "Hey man, I own a professional video game team," or are you just like whatever?
I've tried to explain so many times, and right now I'm explaining it differently every single time. If you tell them I play video games professionally, they're gonna roll their eyes and assume that you're like living with your parents and stuff.
Yeah.
Eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew.
You tell them you own an esports organization, they're not gonna know shit. They don't know what that is. So I've tried using like the.
Did you just say sports wrong?
Yeah, exactly. I try using like the Lakers example. It's like I own, the Lakers. It's like I have Lakers except in video games, but that doesn't really work a lot of the time. I don't know. It's tough to explain, man. I just say I own websites now. I manage websites. I don't know.
People ask me, they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I used to be like, okay, I write for TempoStorm, like, what's TempoStorm?" And then I have to go and like explain like what TempoStorm is. And so now I just say I work for a website and I produce YouTube content for them and write, because it's just way easier, you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
an internet dancing monkey. It doesn't work quite as much.
Exactly. So basically, you started with Hearthstone. You're getting your hands dirty, getting in the mud, you know, playing all the time, and in every tournament, or every tournament you could get into, obviously. And now you're not playing less, but you're taking more of a managerial role when it comes to TempoStorm. Can you give a little bit of background as to why you're doing that?
Yeah. Honestly, since we picked up more teams, it's like 8 hours of my day is just trying to handle stuff. I mean, there's constant roster changes that go up. The Heroes to the Storm team has a house, so it's like lots of little things come up there. But luckily, the manager there has been handling stuff very well. I have to handle like lots of little things like shipping stuff out, jersey orders. There's salaries that have to be paid to like, I don't know, like 20 writers and what are 15 to 20 employees at the end of every month, and that's a lot of time because they're not all through PayPal. So then you have to do like bank wires and fill out 2-page forms for each of those people. And none of these things individually is that much work, but it just turns into like 8 hours a day of stuff, which cuts into my streaming time, which is something that to me matters more than playing competitively. But like I turned down a lot of any league that exists pretty much. I've turned down. I've been invited to any tournament that exists almost. I have an invite to, but I always try to pass it on to my players because those guys will definitely work harder at it and they have more time to do it. But want to focus more on streaming and that kind of stuff. But I'll still play the bigger tournaments that come along. Like, I'll play ESL and stuff, but I really need deck lists handed to me because I never know what's good on ladder anymore. So I just don't play enough.
Yeah. Does that kind of do you get like upset? Because I'm sure playing in tournaments is fun, and yes, you're having a ton of success, but you also miss being able to like kind of participate in everything and be really active. I'm not to say you're not active now; you're plenty active. But...
not really. Like I know it's healthier to do it this way because I'm the kind of person that, like I mean I enjoy winning, but I hate losing like 10 times as much. So it's very bad for your like mental health over a long. Like I'm just always in a bad mood after I play Hearthstone because if I win 4 games and I lose 1, my net mood is like negative.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's amplified even more for tournaments where there's like eyes on me and stuff. And after a while, it's like why am I putting myself at a disadvantage playing in these things and making myself upset when the guy I'm playing against has played like 13 hours a day for the past month, and I've played 6 hours of ladder like in the past 2 weeks.
Yep.
I'll still win half the time because it's Hearthstone, but like it doesn't. And half the time is not enough to keep my mood good. So.
Yep.
At an even keel. Yeah.
So you mentioned like it just being Hearthstone, and that is obviously because of how RNG the game is. Would you like to see in the future tournaments sort of maybe take out a couple of RNG elements, like maybe ban certain incredibly RNG cards? Or
can't really do it because the thing is, everything in the world is run by people, and people are just not very smart. And it's a big part of why I don't like them. Like for example, like for Hearthstone, right? You want to ban a couple of cards. There's never going to be a consensus about what cards are actually unhealthy for the game. If I were to ask you what cards should be nerfed, I guarantee you like your answers, or what cards should be disallowed from tournaments, I guarantee your answers would be different from mine. I promise you that. The cards that are unhealthy, cards that are unhealthy for the game are Implosion, Animal Companion, and Knife Juggler, because they affect early game board control, so they decide who wins before turn 4. The cards like Ragnaros that are RNG dependent, they don't really matter as much anymore. Like they're so slow that just at that point, like if you want the 50% chance to win, like play that card. That's fine. But cards like Implosion, Knife Juggler, and Animal Companion literally decide before turn 4 who wins the game, and that's super unhealthy because whoever gets board control snowballs the game, and those are the only 3 cards with variable board control in the game. There's also Arcane Missile if you want to make an argument for that, but it's
yeah. No, I think I agree with that. Like if you just have a shitty game where basically you're just trying to win back the board control and you never quite do, and then you lose on turn like 10 and you've just had a horrible game that was decided on turn 2.
Right, and that's a lot of people don't see the game that way, but it's like in Blizzard's arguments like, oh, RNG is good for the game, blah blah blah, and yeah, RNG is good for the game, but you can't have RNG board control that early. Things like Brawl are okay because that's RNG board control on like turn 8 or 10. That's much less. I don't care if the game's decided on turn 8 or 10 by a card. It should be decided by one card that late in the game. But turn 2 is just beyond frustrating. The ultimate like problem with card design like Knife Juggler, Implosion, and Animal Companion is that every single time that card is played, one of the 2 people in the game is pissed off. And that is not good game design, in my opinion. So, Implosion's an easy fix. Just make it summon 4 imps for 2 damage and 2 imps for 4 damage.
Yeah.
And then reword it to say summon some imps. Because Blizzard is too worried about the wording.
Yeah.
Do you think Flame Waker fits in there as well, or do you think it's too slow?
Honestly, it might. It's close, right? Like if they fix those 3 cards, then we'd go on to complaining about the Arcane Missiles Flame Waker deck. But I think it's much less big of a deal than those 2 cards.
So do you think that the RNG in Hearthstone is beyond redeemable, or do you think if they got a new expansion and they focus more on just solid non-RNG cards, it would maybe repair it a little bit, or what do you think?
No, I mean, the RNG is healthy. Like 99% of the RNG cards in the game are totally fine, and they're designed well.
Absolutely.
It's just, especially cards like Shredder, super good design. But cards like Knife Juggler, like, there's so many reasons that it's not okay for that card to exist. So many reasons. Like, even the Novice Engineer argument, right? Like, they nerfed Novice Engineer because they were pissed off, or they didn't want the same card to be played as a 2-of in every single deck, right?
Yeah.
Name an aggro deck without Knife Juggler.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it's not a... I don't know. I'm not happy with that card at all.
Like every day you're streaming, obviously, your stream is known mostly for, well, you got like the good music, your amazing hair, obviously, and your Twitch chat. the chat interaction with you is like one of the defining characteristics of your stream. I think a lot of people will agree. How do you feel about Twitch chat in general?
I enjoy it. It's something I used to appreciate a lot more. It's like definitely something that's unique to the platform, and obviously like the whole reason to watch something like Twitch over YouTube, you get that live interaction. Unfortunately, Twitch chat follows dank memes like a herd. So right now, the whole thing with my channel is like, let's pay $3 at a time to install Reynad. And it's like, you know, any individual message you brush off, yeah, but then it's like over days and days of having a robotic voice shit talk you for 8 hours in a row. Like at a certain point, you start to appreciate Twitch chat a little bit less.
Yeah.
But eventually, they'll move on to other stuff. So we'll see.
Completely understandable.
I think you need to start incorporating that into your pitch for your daily job. When you're at bars and stuff, you just need to say, people pay me $3 to tell me dank memes about my hair.
Yep.
Do you ever tell them your forehead is a landing strip for like planes?
Yep.
I get that one 10 times a day or so.
So we've been seeing Frodan obviously around. He's like the key caster. He's like the Hearthstone caster, really. What kind of role does he have in TempoStorm? Because he's associated with TempoStorm, but a lot of people don't really know what he does.
Yeah, he's the VP of operations. Basically, he's like the only person other than myself that I trust, and he goes through. Honestly, like a lot of it's like an advisor role. Like when I have an idea about a pickup or just like some big step for the brand, I'll run it by him, get his thoughts. Anytime anything involving PR happens, I'll always throw that to Frodan. I'm very good at pissing people off when I speak, so I try to avoid handling the PR side. He handles a lot of the smaller. He even helps with the busy work stuff, which honestly is super helpful. Like making the budget sheet for every month. Things like that are just because I can't handle homework like that. I like it takes me like 5 hours, an entire day's worth of energy to do a very simple small thing that should take 10 minutes, just because I hate work like that. So he does a lot of stuff basically across the organization. But yeah, he's just super valuable, super helpful with a lot of stuff.
So basically, we're just segueing now over to tournaments, talking mostly about tournaments. Speaking of TempoStorm, ChallengeStone 2 was recently announced. Why don't you just clue us in on what ChallengeStone is and how the first one went?
And basically, it's a kind of tournament where people build their decks on the spot using a set of restrictions that they're told about, like right before they build their decks, and they have a limited amount of time to build decks. So the first ChallengeStone, it was every spell in your deck had to have an even casting cost, and every creature had to have an odd attack value. And Kibler ended up winning that. It was super successful. Actually, it was the most successful Hearthstone event of the year. Looking at all the Twitch stats, the viewer engagement, all the numbers behind it, people stayed and watched. Every viewer stayed and watched that tournament for twice as long as any single Conquest tournament throughout the entire year, which is insane. That's like 200% the viewer engagement. So it was super successful, well received by the community. I saw a bunch of Reddit threads, like over 1K upvotes before, during, and after the event. People were talking about it for like a week after. It was really successful. I was just really happy with it, yeah.
And so then the natural thing was to do a ChallengeStone 2, right?
Yep. Krip and Rania play a huge role in organizing the whole thing, and they really wanted to do it like roughly on a monthly cycle. So have everything every monthly, yeah. So we'll have one every 4 to 5 weeks. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be pretty exciting.
It's definitely a good time to strike because the whole like new expansion came out, so everything was kind of settling down, everyone getting kind of bored, and this definitely freshens everything up, especially because the tournament scene's gotten a little stale. It's kind of like the same thing over and over for a little while, so it's definitely fresh. And when people
are you interested in competing, or are you worried that people will think you have inside information on the challenge?
No, I'll compete, yeah. Eventually, when I have time. It just like depends. It's not a huge priority for me, but I'd love to be on for one of them, definitely. Maybe for number 3 or something.
Right.
What about the Lord of the Arena tournament? Because that also was pretty successful. I really enjoyed that because I don't know a ton about Arena, and it was cool seeing people use their Arena skills in deck building. Are we going to see a second one of those?
Yeah, we're going to see Lord of the Arena 4 should be want to say like a month from now. Like it'll probably be like 2 weeks after Challenge Stone, would be my guess. It'll be like Challenge Stone 2, and then Lord of the Arena 4, like a couple weeks after that, probably, and then Challenge Stone 3, 2 weeks after that. So, as far as the planning stages for that, it hasn't like I know the rough time frame I want to do it, but we haven't like gathered everyone together for it yet. But it definitely will happen, and Lord of the Arena will be like roughly every 3 months or so. That one's kind of unique because, like, okay, for Challenge Stone, it's like Frodan, Crip, Rania. Those guys really put it together, and I don't have to commit my time, which is awesome. But then it's like something like Lord of the Arena. That one was like my idea, so I organized like the first two. Then the third one, I let I had a couple of the admins handle that, but it's like I take a more hands-on approach for Lord of the Arena, so. The reason we haven't seen it yet is just because I haven't had the time to like set it all up exactly how I want to.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be good to see Ratsmir in action too, because we spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was a fairly new pickup then, so it'll be good to see him in a tournament setting. He told us that he was keen to play as well.
Yeah, he'll be in the next one for sure.
So the VA Game House Cup's been going on. Now I haven't personally been watching a ton of it. TheKamsh or Nocturne, do you want to clue us in on what that is?
Basically, it's a big tournament played in Europe, and because it's in Europe, they have castles in Europe, and because they have castles in Europe, they decided to cast from a castle, which is pretty fucking fantastic. There were a bit of cosplaying. Frodan was cosplaying, got some capes and Dracula fangs happening, which was nice. I can't say that I've actually seen many of the games, but the production looked pretty good. TheKamsh, did you catch any of the action?
I watched a little bit, but basically it's cool, right? Because a lot of the tournaments have been getting pretty stale so far. Like BRM came out long enough ago where you're seeing a lot of the same decks and a lot of the same cards. No one was really playing any new decks. I think there were a couple, but pretty standard stuff. So it's nice to see like they have a lot of fun, different stuff. Like in the last couple tournaments, it's the same thing where you saw like Reynad beating a Pinata and stuff like that. Like you have the same sort of thing where people are like dressing up, and it's just like it adds a lot to the tournament scene. Like it's as close as you can get to like a variety in a tournament without actually having different rule sets.
Yeah.
I think it's the right fit for Hearthstone. Like Hearthstone's the kind of game that requires a little bit of just something different, like a unique aspect that fits with how the game itself is played. As we said, there's a fair bit of RNG. There's I don't think it can be that serious esport that some of the really highly tuned games can be. I don't think it ever really wants to be. And so tournaments like this, where they've got not gimmicks, but things that really attract a viewer's attention, like this, it's fantastic.
Alright, what do you think about VA Game?
No opinion, really.
Yeah.
It's a cool tournament, yeah. Good for them.
Alright,
are you're just not playing because you're busy?
I don't want to get into that on stream. It's like the one tournament where nobody from our team was invited, and I'm pretty sure it's not by accident. So.
Okay. So moving on over to the more article-centric side of TempoStorm, we had Caldy from Team Fnatic come in, wrote a little bit of write-up on Patron Warrior. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. That's the kind of article that I love reading on TempoStorm. It had some nice little graphics. It was all broken down. The deck was broken down really well, and then of course it was from a pro player's perspective. So we got some interesting takes on it. I thought in terms of Patron Warrior, there's still a little bit of fine-tuning happening with the deck. There are a few advocates for different styles. Some like a more control-y build. Some like just a almost cycle heavy deck where you just cycle through your whole deck as quickly as possible just to get to the combo by turn 8. So yeah, I really don't think the jury's still out on exactly what the best version is. And this is a version that I think that I haven't seen before. It's still got a lot of the base elements, but the play style is slightly different, and there are a few different cards in there.
Yeah. What do you guys think about just Patron Warrior in general? Because I personally like it a lot. It's like different. We've had the pieces of this Patron Warrior in the game for so long, and then they finally all came together with BRM, and it's pretty wombo combo-y because you can get things like Frothing Berserkers and Warsong Commanders to just like one-shot your opponent sometimes. But I think it's definitely like more fun to watch. Do you think decks like this we want to see more of, or do you think it's a little bit too wombo combo and we should stray away from it?
I think we should see way more decks like this. It like rewards good plays, punishes bad ones, and I haven't really seen a deck like that since, I want to say Miracle Rogue, but honestly even Miracle Rogue is pretty easy to play, more or less. People said it was hard, but it wasn't that tough. But yeah, Patrons, like, I like it because it rewards good play and understanding of your matchup and your deck, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely strong too.
Yeah, I think it's proof of the community showing how good they are at seeing trends and being able to pick up good decks, because Blizzard themselves said they didn't spot it. And sometimes that happens in Magic the Gathering, that kind of thing. They have a future league where they play with cards that are about to come out, and sometimes they don't pick the best cards. But I think the community has sort of come together and just like realized the potential of these cards really well. That wasn't spotted by the game's designers.
Yeah, it's a super fun deck. If you haven't tried it, I definitely recommend you try it because it's thought-provoking and it's really satisfying when you win with like a nice little combo or something like that. Secondly, Gara was doing more of a Dragon Hunter. What is going on? He's been trying out a lot of these Dragon archetypes, and some of them work, some of them don't. I think for the most part, this one was pretty impressive. He used Draconid Crusher and the Volcanic Drake. He also, like, things like Deathwing and Alexstrasza saw a little bit of a play, but it's like, do you think Dragon Hunter is viable at all?
Do you mean Dwagon?
Dwagon, I'm sorry, Dwagon Hunter. My bad.
Yeah, so basically the deck, yeah, Draconic Crusher is great in a deck where you can get them down to 15 life pretty quickly, and you can usually do that on like turn 4 or 5 with Hunter. It doesn't have, it's not the Face Hunter variant, so it's probably turn 5 or 6. But still, it's very effective because, it's, you know, being a 6-drop, it comes down at the right time to be a 9/9. It's an immediate threat. If they don't have a BGH, then it's going to be a lot of trouble for them to remove. And then Volcanic Drake is useful. You run Snake Traps and Unleash the Hounds, as you do in most, well, you run Unleash the Hounds in most Hunter decks anyway. And you can trade in your little 1/1s and get a free 6/4. So that's fantastic. And he was running Deathwing and Alex. I like the idea of, that seems cool to me. Both offensively or defensively, we know that Alex is powerful. Deathwing was interesting. I think he had it in there just in case he like lost control of the board, or maybe just because it's awesome. But yeah, there are a couple of cards that could be optimized maybe, but I think it's definitely fun.
Kamsh, you play ladder a ton. What do you think about all these dragon archetypes, and do you think they're as strong as things like the mech archetype is?
Well, like some of them. I mean, I think they're definitely really fun to play, and that's like an important thing, right? Because if you're playing ladder like a ton, you're just grinding out, you get bored of Zoo, and that makes you like maybe play worse. So you get bored of like Face Hunter, and like playing a different deck is really refreshing. And like as long as the deck is somewhat competitive, like you might see a higher win rate just because you're playing something new and having more fun with it. I think they're definitely still a little bit below. I wouldn't consider like most of them tier 1. Things like Dragon Lock or like Dragon Hunter, I wouldn't consider them tier 1, but I think they're playable on ladder, and you can hit legend with them if you play it enough and like make optimal choices and things of that nature. Yeah,
I think everyone has like a little bit of that Timmy in them where they just go, I like playing big creatures. That's fun to do. That's what dragons are. I think I find them a bit frustrating because I tried so hard to make them work, and I just pushed them too far, and I ended up just having these really uncompetitive decks, because I think they need to be treated a little bit, they need to be treated differently. There's synergy in a lot of the dragons, but you don't want to be playing like 20 of them in your deck. You need like 2 or 3, 4 or 5, just to sort of get the best out of them. But just because they're these bigger threats, it's too greedy to be playing more than that.
Yeah. What do you think about dragon?
There's no dragon with like heal or taunt, so those are the mechanics that you need to stay alive, and so you have to play other cards, which then cuts down your curve, and it can be really difficult to like formulate a deck with them being successful. And Kibler, who is a fantastic dragon nerd like myself, he basically reached the same conclusion. He published an article this week about his adventures with Dragon Paladin. I think he had something like 29 lists, like of different iterations of the Dragon Paladin deck. But he basically came to the conclusion that it was like 5 dragons was good he played like two Dragon Consort, Ysera, and maybe Alex or something, and then just had it in a mid-range shell for Paladin.
Got it.
Which was the best shell for it. So I think it's fairly well concluded that you can't build dragons like you built mechs anyway.
Reynad, how do you feel about dragons?
Yeah, my most successful list had about 5 or 6 dragons too. Something like Consort's pretty strong because you don't like have to have a dragon in hand for it to get its value. Like you can just play it, and then whenever you draw the dragon later, like it did its job. I tried a lot of dragon lists. Started with Priest. I went through all the classes. I tried Hunter last week. My list is pretty different from Gara's though. I still had Deathwing though, for what it's worth. Far as sweet and Hunter. But
why are you playing Deathwing?
It's like game you lose control. Like the games you lose with Hunter are where you lose control of the board, and all you really want with the deck is time to hero power them. Because Hunter has the best late game hero power in the game, tied with Warrior. The best early game is Rogue. Best mid game is Warlock. But yeah, basically, like the longer the game goes, the more likely Hunter is to win, which is kind of why it's so good as an aggro deck. Most aggro decks aren't like that. But yeah, definitely just like resets the board, just wins you the game if they don't have the answer, and if they do have the answer, whatever. But also, it's just a big dragon. It sits in your hand, so you can enable technicians and stuff if you're playing those, which I was. But yeah, the thing with dragon decks, they're like a big part of the problem is that Corruptor is like the better of the two between Technician and Corruptor. And those are the cards that like reward you for being a dragon deck in the non-paladin classes. So then you need healing and you need taunt, just like Nocturne said. And then the problem with that is the healing and taunt you want is like Healbot and Sludge Belcher. So then you're playing Healbot, Sludge Belcher, Corruptor. It's just too many 5-drops. It means you can't play stuff like Lotheb or Harrison. It's just like it's too clunky. So you have to play Corruptor as a value card and like a Warlock shell, and that's probably the best list for it. And honestly, the biggest problem is that so many of the dragon cards just suck. Like the good ones are Twilight Drake, but only Warlock can play it, and like Azure Drake. But the Azure Drake fits in a lot of shells, but it's another 5-drop.
Yeah.
So that's basically the problems with the deck. It's just like the fact that Corruptor is a 5-drop is an issue. If it was like a 4/3 that did 3 damage for 4 mana, would be like infinitely better.
You know what I think? I think Blizzard hates the Paladin class. I feel like they've just thrown them this Dragon Consort because they were like, well, dragons might be really good in any other class. Like we've seen Warlock, they can be quite good. Priest has got a few tools, so maybe it's almost there in so many classes. And they were like, well, there's no way it'll ever work in Paladin, so let's just chuck them the best dragon for that deck. And I think maybe that was a bit lazy. Like they didn't try to make Dragon Paladin work. They were just like, well, let's throw them a really good card, and then it looks like we're trying.
I mean, the real problem with Paladin, and this is just the reason the deck will not be tier 1, is that like every tier 1 deck has burst, because once you lose board control and you fall behind in Hearthstone, it's impossible to catch up. Even if you have AoE, like an Equality Consecrate or something, your opponent's still the first person to play stuff. And you never run out of stuff to play in Hearthstone, because you're always drawing like cards that do stuff. So basically what I'm saying is, once you lose board control, the only way to win is to have burst, and then just cheese them with like Force of Nature Savage Roar or something, which is why you see things like Rogue with Oil, Druid, like every mage list, Fireballs to the face, every tier 1 deck, Patron OTKs them. Every single deck has burst, and Paladin does not have burst. So you're forced to like play this attrition game where you try to run them out of cards, but if they balance their deck correctly with enough cantrips and card advantage engines, then they're never going to run out of cards until they go to fatigue. And you just can't like play a strategy like that. And on top of that, there's a combo deck that actually exists now in Patron Warrior. It's just going to destroy you in the late game, because eventually they're going to have Warsong Patron. So
yeah,
and your hero power is a liability.
Yeah, you can't have a tier 1 deck without burst. You can't.
All right, so Yeah, Paladin pretty weak. I would concede that point, especially with the Grim Patron being so popular, like you mentioned, has huge downsides when you're going against Grim Patron. But alongside Grim Patron, we also saw, mostly last week, Hybrid Hunter. Personally, I didn't play a ton against Hybrid Hunter. I played like 3. I'm assuming it was Hybrid Hunter, but I think they just drew really poorly, and I got pretty lucky. But have you guys had experience with this deck, and what do you really think about it?
Yeah, I was playing it like the week I was in my Control Warrior phase. I think that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was just crushing it. I think because a lot of people just saw a list, and they decided that they'd just do it. They'd put high mains in and that kind of thing. Because I don't think Control Warrior has that great a matchup against it. But I was just crushing them because they just didn't know how to play it. They were playing it like Face Hunter, and not really curving out properly into their threats. And then the Tempo Storm meta snapshot came out, and it got adopted even further. And there were it was rife for a couple of days at least. That's pretty much all I played. It was like 50% of my meta, honestly.
Wow.
It's a strong deck though. It's good. Like, it makes sense. Like, Savannah Highmane is one of the best 6-drops in the game. Why would you not play it?
Yeah.
And of course Boom is great, so why not curve out into that as well?
It's interesting to think how these decks are made, because you have like mid-range Hunter and Face Hunter, and you just sort of like combine them into this abomination and see if it works, and evidently it totally did.
The thing with Hunter is just the hero power is so proactive. It just doesn't really matter how you build it. You can really play anything in the deck. You can play a Hunter deck with 30 1-ofs, and it would have almost the same win percentage as any other list. That's like just how good the deck is. It just has like a good linear plan, and it doesn't really matter how you build it. If there's more slow decks, you play high mains. If there are way too many slow decks, you play Face Hunter.
See, I think people complain about Warrior, but Patron Warrior. But I think the most non-interactive deck is like Face Hunter, because they literally just throw cards at your face. They don't care about card advantage. It's just like, I put things on the table and then I attack your face. And you know, you've got to have an aggro deck in every meta. I understand that, but I think the hero power, as Reynad was saying, is the thing that causes that, because you have that reach. You always have that reach available to you.
Yeah.
Free shock every turn is pretty ridiculous. Free in terms of card advantage.
Ladder's been so rock paper scissors lately. Like if you go play like if you go play Hunter, like Face Hunter or Hybrid Hunter, and you lose to Warrior. If you go play Control Warrior, then you lose to Zoo, and you switch to Zoo, but then you lose to like Face Hunter, and then like every 90 games you get like a Shaman, that's a free win. Every like 30 games you get a Druid, which is like a 50-50. But like the ladder environment hasn't been great. Well. Yeah, but like I don't know. It's just been there's so much Warlock and Warrior on ladder, and like a couple Druids. A few of them, like 5-1 in Legend on a ladder in the past like month.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. The rock paper scissors aspect has really, I was going to say the same thing actually. It's really come into play in the last couple of weeks. I think just because the 3 decks at the top are so strong, and they do have, or the 3 classes at least, they do counter each other so well. You'd basically see people switching between those 3 decks, and any other sort of fringe deck that doesn't is going to be losing to the majority of, 2 out of 3 of those decks. So, yeah, and they are such different strategies, all 3 of them. So, you have you can't just like pick one deck that's going to beat the meta at the moment.
So what do we think about handlock in this whole scheme of things? Do you think handlock is sort of like the answer to all of our problems, or do we need to find something a little bit deeper?
It might be good. I don't know. Ladder's really random, honestly. There's like a lot of variety, especially at the lower ranks. Like, I dropped down to like 2,600, and I climbed out of it yesterday, and I noticed that like anywhere below 1K, you just play against random classes every single game. Then once you get to like the really high ranks, then it's just like half your games are against Warlock, and the other half are against one of the 2 variants of Warrior and Hunter. And that's like really the only decks that I really see in high rank. So I think that handlock, I mean, it's really not good against Control Warrior, and it's not that good against Patron either, because most of them are playing Big Game Hunter now. But it's not the worst. Like, it's a good deck. It's just I don't think that the best build of it has been discovered yet, and it's not much I've. It's not really one I've played with much, but I know that your mid-range hunter matchup is like unwinnable, which is why I don't like playing the deck.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of not being the best deck, do you feel like BlackRock has been pretty fleshed out as far as decks being discovered, or do you think there's more room for innovation and there can be more deck archetypes?
There's way more room for innovation. It won't be like huge changes, but it'll be like 4-card, 5-card differences on lists that really change how it plays. There's still like 20 ideas I have that I haven't gotten to, just haven't had time. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do still. I mean, there's like 10 versions of Priest you can play that nobody's really experimented with. There's a lot of versions of Shaman. There's still a lot of stuff to be discovered, I think.
Do you feel like there's one in specific that is so strong that people have just completely neglected?
That's asking for secrets.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, even if I don't think so. Maybe some rogue lists.
Yeah, I feel like rogue's been kind of undercut. I feel like there's a lot of potential there.
I tried playing like the standard Hungry Dragon list. And it did pretty well. I mean, it climbed like from 1k to 200, but then it dropped down again. The deck is just too RNG. You have to draw stuff in the right order. So, I don't know. It's probably some other kind of rogue list. Maybe aggro, maybe mill. Not sure.
I think in terms of innovation post BRM, we've seen I think we've seen something new every week. Like there's something coming out. There just recently, the latest thing seems to be back on Flamewaker. It got hot there for a week or so, and people decided that it wasn't quite good enough. And now there are a few more posts about it. I've noticed in the last week, people being excited. There's a better optimized list. I think Strife Crow started with it, and then there are a few others that came along and just optimized it. I really like Flamewaker as a card. I don't think it has that RNG aspect that we were talking about before, the bad RNG. But yeah, I think it could be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've been on the competitive Hearthstone subreddit lately, there was a huge write-up. This guy was like Zan. How do you pronounce his name? It's like Zandali or something like that.
Zandali.
Yeah, Zandali. He basically did a huge write-up on getting to Legend in Hearthstone and how you can really bake it down to a couple of core concepts, which I think everyone kind of knows. Plug, if you want to get Legendary. Tempo Storm, pretty solid tool for that. But yeah, basically...
You mean become Legendary, right?
I'm sorry, become Legendary, that's right.
Fuck, mate, get on brand.
Yeah, so did you guys get a chance to check this out? Because it's actually a really good read. There's so much information packed into this one Reddit post.
I haven't looked at it yet, no.
Yeah, it's a pretty good guide. He is a moderator of competitive HS, which is the subreddit, and I think he basically was just like, I lurk and do my mod duties, and now I've decided to contribute to the community by doing this 20,000 character post. It draws together a lot of things that have been said already, but it's done in a well-written manner. There are a few points that I think were quite interesting. The first one was that he said basically not everyone gets to Legend. I think people feel a little bit entitled to get to Legend sometimes, and they think that it's easy. And then they're incredibly surprised when they can't make it in a night, like some of the popular streamers from rank 5 or whatever. And I think the main thing to realize is that for 90% of players, it takes a lot of time, and you have to grind out your win percentage, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things was the guy who wrote the guide was just saying, he was going through his win percentages for the month, and he said, on day X I played 130 games and my win percentage was Y, and the first comment on the thing was like, holy shit, 130 games in one day, like I need to start playing more.
Yeah. And
I think that is what people need to realize, like the more games you're playing, you can have a 51% win rate really getting to Legend, but you just have to play a ton of games.
There was another Reddit post. This time it was on the /r/Hearthstone subreddit, and it was mostly talking about how this guy, his name is Der Steppenwolf X, so he's pretty legit. He feels the game is way too bare bones for its own good, and for how successful it is, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. I cut Blizzard a lot of slack because I'm like, okay, I don't think they expected this game to be as absolutely ginormous as it got. It's like definitely Blizzard's most, Twitch-wise, popular game consistently, so... do you guys feel like it's kind of met the whole, kept up with its popularity in terms of content, or do you think there's too much room to innovate and it's too bare bones?
I don't think it's too bare bones. I think it's like a big part of why it's successful. Honestly, the designers did an exceptional job on the game, and they should design more games like this, honestly. I mean, the biggest complaint with Hearthstone for a long time is that, like, there just wasn't enough of it. You know, not enough expansions, not enough game modes and stuff, and those are all good problems to have. So
yeah, I totally agree. It's people asking for more content, and that it's not greed necessarily, but you just get so hungry for more and more, and it's because you like the game so much. And I think they've done a fantastic job of getting the game to the point where people get that hunger. Saying that it's bare bones is probably this is the vernacular of the person writing the post. I think that's a really poor way to say it, because Blizzard games are famous for being polished, and Hearthstone is really polished. You everything that is there is there for a reason, or everything that is not there, 10 deck slots and up, is not there for a reason, and that's their reason. They know what they're doing. They have the stats behind them. They have a lot of stats. They know, how many people come in per month. They know how much people spend on packs. They know all about this new player experience through data that we don't. And I'm not making an argument for no more deck slots, but I'm just saying they are pretty well informed, and I don't imagine that they're making these decisions lightly.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any sort of
I mean, it's...
Oh, go ahead, Kamsh.
I was just gonna say, like, I've played a lot of different online card games, including like Magic Online, some of the other like standalone ones. Like Hearthstone is still miles ahead of any of those, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if it's like not as polished as this person wants, it's still the best we have. So
definitely. Reynad, do you feel like there's a feature in specific that could really benefit Hearthstone, or something that you just really want to see?
Lots of them, yeah, but they're all. I don't want to say them out loud because it's all stuff that we're just going to do third party through our website.
Oh, sweet. All right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think whilst it doesn't exist, the market will come up with solutions anyway. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things that people discuss, they're gonna happen. Like it's going to happen. You just have to have some patience. Blizzard will keep prioritizing releasing sets, releasing adventures ahead of necessarily implementing these solutions. So we just have to get used to that, and because those are the things that make money. So and keep making money, and they do make the game fresh to a certain extent as well.
Yeah, it's honestly exciting because as you get more and more card sets and more, you're just adding to the pile of existing cards, which means there's more and more interactions you can find, which means more and more different decks can pop up, and it's every single time they add something, the game gets almost exponentially more deep, or maybe deep is a bad idea, or better word, but exactly. There's more room for innovation. Yeah.
And game development is just juggling a series of competing priorities, right? Because you have a list of like 10 things, and the first two are always like release new cards, or do research and development on new cards to make sure that they don't need an immediate nerf and that kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch of design and balancing that goes on with those top two priorities, which I think are always going to be the top two priorities because those are what makes money. And then you have 8 to 15 other things that are like specific bugs or fixes that have to get done. And basically when a developer doesn't have time to work on those top priorities, they then get to go to these bottom ones. And it may happen that doesn't happen for like 6 months because they're busy. That's the way I see it.
So Reynad, you're a streaming aficionado, to say the least. You are consistently one of the highest viewed Hearthstone streamers available. And people really consider Twitch streaming kind of like the dream. I was wondering if you wanted to break down sort of like a day-to-day, or not a day-to-day, just a breakdown of an average day for you.
I don't know. I mean, I wake up at like 2 or 3 p.m. and then I try to get in. I try to answer like the questions from Chinese and European contacts that I work with from the night before, and then I send requests to the American contacts and all of that. Try to fit in breakfast and a shower somewhere, and then I stream at 5 until like maybe like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Then I stay up till about 5 or 6 a.m. Um, talking real time with the European and Chinese contacts because then they're all awake.
Right.
All the sponsors, a lot of the manufacturers we work with, stuff like that. And then I sleep, and that's pretty much it. But that's honestly, it's like a unique case for me because running an esports organization. I mean, guys like Jack or Reggie, they have probably the same amount of hours into their day as I do, and that's just on running the team. So I like try to scale back on that to fit 8 hours of streaming in. When I was just a streamer, it's a very different lifestyle. It definitely is like the best job you can have. But I mean, any situation you're in life, you're gonna acclimate, and it's just not like very quickly, and it's not gonna be like a fairy tale for you once you're living it. That's just true with anything, any stage you're at in life. But it's definitely one of the nicest jobs you can have, and it's like on a usual, like before the whole team thing started, yeah, I'd basically like wake up, eat, stream, wake up, eat, stream. It changes every month, right? Sometimes you're traveling like every single week. Sometimes like when my stream first started getting popular, I would wake up at 2 a.m. and stream like 13 hours a day for 30 days in a row just to build the audience from nothing. Because my name was out there and it was early in Hearthstone, so I knew I had to like work hard then. So, but then like now I can scale back on that. I only have to stream like 6 hours. It really is different month to month depending on a lot of factors, but it's definitely one of the best jobs you can have.
Yeah. Do you find yourself ever getting burnt out on Hearthstone and transitioning to other games, or?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it happened with Magic, and then I've made it happen slower with Hearthstone because I realized how big of a problem that was. Like, Hearthstone is still enjoyable for me, and it's one of those things where, like, if I don't play for 3 days, I get all these ideas for really awesome decks that I want to, like, play on ladder right away. It's like the same thing with music. If I don't listen to music for, like, 3 days, then I just, like, I hear, like, compositions and stuff. It's like the further I am away from something, the more I, like, crave the creative part of it. But when you're like forced to stream when I want to stream, like I want to stream in a day, but I don't want to play Hearthstone. Like I have no choice really because I can't just start off playing something like Counter-Strike or a different game. It just doesn't. It's just not going to retain viewers because my fan base is so built on Hearthstone. So I have to like stream Hearthstone first for like 6 hours, whether I want to or not. And sometimes I really want to, but there are days where I don't. And then like at the end, I have to switch into other games. It's tough to make that transition once you're like committed to one game, and it's a problem that a lot of streamers have, and it's a problem that only a few streamers have managed to fix, and that's with years of a regular cycle and switching games. And it's very tough to do. Like Lyric did it, Summit did it, and at first it was the same thing for them. As soon as they switched out of their main game, 90% of their viewers just leave. But you have to keep doing that and sticking with it, and eventually you can be like a variety streamer, and then it's a much better position to be in because you just have like more flexibility with what you want to play.
Yeah. What would you say is like a really helpful advice to someone who is looking to make it big on Twitch? Would you just think consistency is kind of the biggest part, or being good at what you are?
Consistency is the biggest part. I mean, you have to. I don't know. I have this opinion that like smart people in the world will find a way to be successful in what they want to be successful in one way or another. Like you have to be able to identify things that make somebody successful on Twitch, try to emulate them, try to come up with your own stuff maybe, see how it works. And there's so many different demographics to appeal to and so many different ways to go about it. But yeah, the most important things that transcend demographics is consistency. Like you want to be on at the same time every day, and I mean, if you want to do it full time, then you have to treat it as a full-time job and like, stream full time to not that many viewers. I mean, I streamed Hearthstone to like 100 people for a couple months. It's like if you don't treat it like a full-time job, then the guy who will just have more viewers than you.
Yep.
It's kind of like an apprenticeship where you have to spend the first 6 months where you earn absolutely nothing, and then you're not even guaranteed to get any money at the end of it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But you do have to, you have to commit to something before you can even say that, it hasn't succeeded.
It's the same thing for getting into the competitive scene. Like the amount of emails I get from people like bitching about why they're not famous and why they can't play a children's card game for a living is fucking ridiculous to me. Nobody should be able to play this game for a living. It's absolutely ridiculous. We contribute nothing to society, and they expect like to be handed that to them. Like, disgusts me. It's like build it for yourself. You know, it's not. It's the same thing anywhere in life. Like,
Yeah.
I really think you seem to, and this is what I admire about you, you seem to really appreciate this work ethic for esports, and you pick up people that really dedicate themselves to something. So I'm thinking like Ratsma, your FIFA pickup when you were talking before about his journey. Like it's really been one of struggle, and you know, against the odds, but they've really put in the time and the effort to make sure that they get there.
It's one of the things I learned. Yeah, it's one of the things. Sorry to cut you off. It's one of the things I learned early. Is like I used to pick up people that are very talented and like genius at what they do, and then I realized that's terrible. Like work ethic is 10 times as valuable. Like it's something that Gara showed me. It's like way rather have work ethic than talent every time.
Definitely.
Both would be great, but no one has both.
So when you're picking up new players on the team, does like personality really mean a lot to you? Because it seems like the Tempo Storm crews always kind of have like this relaxed, mellow kind of vibe going on. If you had someone who was like super high maintenance but still really good, would you diminish? What do you think? Less
Like
quickly about it, or no?
It's definitely like a team image that I want, and there's like a lot of factors into signing someone, but I like to. I want the team to be like guys that you can cheer for, you know?
Yeah.
People that you watch in a tournament and you're like, oh, I want this guy to win. That's like the general image I want the players to have. So if I want to appeal to the demographic of the males in their early 20s watching video games, then like, yeah, that relaxed kind of team atmosphere. That's what you want in a team, I think, to cheer for them. You don't want it to be a bunch of guys that seem like they're all doing their own thing. They don't really speak to each other at all or something like that. That's not. It's harder to cheer for a team like that. So
yeah, definitely.
There's definitely like a certain type of personality, I guess, that I think is a good fit for the brand.
Are you on the lookout for more Hearthstone players? Like you're looking to pick people up?
No. I mean, I'm always gonna say no to that. Like it. The thing is, yes, we're gonna pick up like probably one player for sure within the next 2 weeks, potentially 2. And it's like, it's not that I'm on a lookout for someone. I'm like, okay, we need another Hearthstone player. Let's have tryouts and see who's good in the community. It doesn't work that way. It's more like, okay, I'm never on the lookout for someone.
Yeah.
Then if someone exceptional comes along, then it's like, okay, let's this is a really good fit. Let's try to make this opportunity happen. And yeah, a lot like dating, I guess. And that's the thing with it, is like people expect there to be tryouts or something. Like it doesn't work that way, right? Like as a team owner, why would you sign someone that's good at a video game just because they're good at a video game? There are 30 million people that play this game. Like I guarantee you, anyone that applies to my team, there are 50 Koreans better than you. There are 50 NA players better than you. Like why would I sign a player that's good? So you have to build your own like individual brand and then want esports organizations to be interested in you based off that. And that's how you get on a team.
When I used
So
to,
what's like the Tinder of Hearthstone?
Yeah, and can I join the team? I was thinking when I used to run restaurants, we would have a saying which was like never hiring, always looking. Sounds like a similar type of principle that you're applying there.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and transition into the final section of the podcast, which is our Q&A. Basically, we're going to be looking for Twitch chat. You guys can throw us your questions. Try and keep it actually constructive so we have good stuff to talk about, not so much the dank memes side of everything. But yeah, so is there anything you guys want to talk about while we let the questions sort of like fill up? Reynad, I actually do. Just a little bit of a personal question. I previously loved the Fratellis, kind of like fell out of liking them, and then I started watching your stream, listening to more Fratellis. I'm like, dang, these guys are really good, and I wanted to know what your favorite Fratellis song is.
The thing about like really good bands is that your favorite song by them changes based on the mood.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say there's one that really stands out to me, but I like, man, a lot of the stuff from like the old EPs that They had a song called Moriarty's Last Stand.
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that was not bad. There's like, I don't know, all the older stuff. I'm not a fan of any of John's solo albums. I'm not a fan of, well, I mean, they're like fine, but they're not like, I wouldn't say they're the best. And then the 7 Nights, 7 Days was like, I don't know, the whole album of like We Need Medicine was not bad, but I don't think there's one song that stands out. I like the older stuff more though.
Cool.
Is it a requirement to have nice hair to join TempoStorm?
Basically, yeah.
I can answer that. Yes, absolutely. You get given an introductory pack, and with it comes a hairdryer and a liter of gel.
Yep. When I hire, I pretty much walk into the nearest modeling agency and throw a rock.
A lot of people are asking what kind of cards you want to see in the new expansion. Yeah, it's a very vague question to ask because it's not like you just, oh, well, let me come up with this idea that I've been thinking forever.
All more combo decks.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Things like Grim Patron,
Right.
I want to see more of that. Someone wants to know what our favorite classes are each. Mine would be probably Druid because I like how thematically it works with World of Warcraft, and I like the whole choosing your own, the flexibility of all the cards. Nocturne, what about you?
Such a role player.
I know.
I probably like Mage. I'm getting into Warlock, and yeah, maybe Druid too. So favorite class, Mage.
I don't think I like have a favorite class. I just like winning, so whatever's best. You know, like Warlock, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite class either, but I like Mage playstyle a lot. Mage and Warlock a lot.
What would you think about a new class being added to Hearthstone? Well, firstly, Blizzard can't count to 10, so I'm a bit worried about that.
Yeah. I personally don't think it's necessary. I think there's a lot more room for cards to go on, or to be further developed than, because if you had a new class, it's going to change the game so much that there's still more depth to explore with the cards that we don't need another class.
I totally agree. I think there's so much design space out there. Like, there's no reason to add another class just for the sake of it. It would be a massive balance issue, and it'd throw out their beautiful 9-slot thing. So I honestly don't think we're going to see it for quite some time, maybe ever.
I think it'd be kind of sweet, but not. I don't think it'll ever happen. Like, you have to change too many things in the UI, and then imagine the week it gets released. It's like the only deck being played.
Ugh.
But yeah, I think it'd be cool. But any new content, I'm all up for. Like, anytime anyone asks, "What do you think about this being added to the game?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I like things being added."
Yeah, exactly. You can't really add something bad. I mean, you definitely can, but for the most part, new stuff is good.
As far as like balance issues go, I think Blizzard can do like basically whatever they want to the game, because like if it's really bad, they'll eventually reverse it. And during like that time, players will adapt, and it'll be something to talk about, like pre-nerf Undertaker and things like that. Like something to talk about for players. It makes like a stronger sense of community. Like they can do whatever they want to the game. People will still play it.
Yeah.
You guys really, the metagame's like always self-correcting, so you can never make a problem. It's too bad.
Yeah. Do you think that Blizzard sort of like made use of the fact that they can change cards on the fly, or do you think that not changing stuff very frequently is doing them really well?
I would like to see patches like every single week with stuff getting nerfed and unnerfed, but honestly, there's so much depth right now in deck building that they don't have to do those patches very often. I think that they should revert a couple of the nerfs that they did, but they don't, and I don't know. Like I wish that they did the patching thing. I wish that they were open to doing it more often, but right now I don't think there's much that needs to be patched except for unnerfs. But the game is stable, so why would you risk it becoming unstable? So I see from their perspective why. There's no point, you know. And
card games are, because you can compare it to League of Legends where the patches happen more frequently, but it's like the card games take so long for things to develop and be created that maybe you're completely skipping over archetypes that are getting created in these patches, and then you're nerfing them before they even get to appear.
Exactly,
TempoStorm, when will you pick up an Agar IO team?
Yeah, soon. One day. I heard they're making a Steam version, so.
Oh, wow.
Maybe when that comes out, China will host $1 million Agario tournaments.
The esports viability of Agario is unreal, really.
Yeah, the Eastern servers are harder too.
Mhm.
Just like esports, man.
Yeah.
Is the metagame too reliant on stronger cards? Is it possible to get to Legend on one budget deck still? I'd say yes, just like, well, I mean, like some even like the aggro decks now, like some of them need like BRM or Nax cards, but like for like even without spending money, if you grind for like a couple weeks for gold, and then you just play one like enough so that you can hit Legend.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of that, Reynad? Because you're sort of famous for popularizing this free-to-play movement. Do you think it's still as possible as it was when you started streaming? Or?
I mean, when I started streaming, it was like literally no one that knew how to build decks. Like there were people playing things other than Blood Imp for a long time. Believe it or not, when that card was like probably the most overpowered thing to ever exist in the game, including Alpha.
Right.
Like it was so gross. But so it was like easier back then because as soon as you played a good deck, you just had an advantage over like 99% of the field. But now 99% of the field net decks. So everyone has a deck that's like has a game plan and can win. So it's definitely harder than it used to be, but it should still be pretty possible. I mean, Hunter can do it. I mean, you could free to play Hunter in like this time of the season, 2 days you get Legend, or I could get Legend in 2 days, I think. But without Hunter, there's still other decks that can do it. Mage could do it, like a Flamewaker list. Warlock could do it. It just depends. Like focus on getting Extramus and Blackrock. That's what I would say if you're doing a free to play.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely possible.
yeah, I think it's possible. You're just gonna be looking at more of a time commitment than you even previously were.
What Magic the Gathering mechanic would you like to see introduced to Hearthstone?
Storm. I like combo. I don't know. More Edwin.
Blizzard said they wouldn't do this, but I want to see like stripping the hand or like mana crystal destruction or just generally things to make the other person hate you and not fun. Because the closest you get now is like playing Face Hunter, and that's not good enough.
Oh, you're the worst. I would have the same answer, but just to a specific, which is the hand stripping. I really like that. I think that is the way that they have to go because there's no interaction on your opponent's turn. You have no instance. And so to make these combo decks, if they decide to make them slightly less consistent, taking out one of their cards from their hand might be one of the best ways to do it.
Are there any card like or deck archetypes that you guys are like really afraid to actually see get good? Because I know personally me, I'm waiting for the day that Mill becomes like really popular and really good because it's gonna be like really hell to play against. And I kind of felt that way about.
Not good.
I mean, if it's in a good matchup, it's pretty good. But you know, is there anything specific that you guys see today that just like frightens you, or no?
Friends being like in terms of what, like it's too good, or
Yeah, like it'd be too good. So like if Mill got to a point where it no longer only wins in its incredible matchups, it now has like it's like 50-50
right.
against everything else. And
I mean, Mill's the kind of deck where that's where you're gonna have to patch things if it becomes good, because even in Magic, it's always been either unplayable, like it is most of the time, or just broken. Yeah. And there's really no middle ground with that deck. Like right now, believe it or not, it beats everything except Druid and Midrange Hunter. If you were to play Mill Rogue, those are its only two bad matchups. And those two decks are enough to keep it in check. But you can't... if someone finds... This is like one of the ideas I had to try, like a hybridized Mill deck. It'll... If it's good, like Gang Up will be nerfed or Cold Light will be nerfed. Yeah.
There's a question here about merchandise for Tempo Storm. Any follow-up on that?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I'm just really slow on it. I feel bad. Like, I just put in the jersey order last night. The guy will take a look at it on Monday, so we should have jerseys up for sale. 200 of them in a couple weeks. And then I want to do, shirts, hoodies, all that stuff. That is all in the process of being made as soon as we have our web developers finished making a store on the website. And the cool thing with our merchandise is it's stuff you can wear in public where, if a girl sees it, doesn't know shit about esports, it still looks good.
Awesome.
It's not going to have, that's like the big thing for me. So
it'll
look good.
Keeping the style motif of Tempo
kind
Storm.
Of,
Every single time he starts
like,
talking.
Talk to a girl or like someone like you find. What do you tell them about like what you do and like how soon and like just what is that process? What is your success rate on that?
About telling them what I do?
Yeah, before you drop the Twitch bomb.
Oh man. almost like in person, I never bring it up. How do you explain something like that to them? They have to like see it in person, right?
Yeah.
I tried opening with that on Tinder once. That it didn't scare her off, but that's not not
That's
necessarily a
when you
good sign
go
about
back
the
and
girl.
click red.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I usually don't open on it. I don't know. I don't really tell them about Twitch.
Yeah.
It's tough to explain my job anytime anyone asks. It's like so many different things.
Is the
Yeah, it's
it-
interesting. I think the a lot of people don't think of those like what you do as a job yet because it's just
Yeah.
not out there in the public consciousness as much as it will be in the future. So you're sort of one of the pioneers. So you're out there, sort of making it easier for the rest of everyone,
Mhm.
all the other Tinder plebs.
Does like the ignorance of some people about esports frustrate you? Because I personally I get pretty frustrated sometimes when I hear about people like being denied access to another country because the security agent didn't think that esports was like a real job or something like that.
Right. I mean, stuff like that's annoying, yeah, but I don't know. I have very low expectations about the human race in general. So when somebody is ignorant about something, I'm rarely disappointed. I'm just impressed if they know what it is.
Got it.
What do you think about adding an arena ladder?
That'd be good. It'll get me to actually play it. That's like the one thing I don't like about it. It's like once you have the cards, or at least all the cards you want to play with in ranked, there's just like no point in playing arena. But it's still a fun format. Like when I played Magic Online, I would just do like 12 hours of drafts in a day, and that was really enjoyable. But with arena, there's like, yeah, once you have all the cards, you're not winning anything. So if they had a ladder for arena, that would be awesome, I think.
Mm. Do you feel like arena is a good metric of skill? Like people who are really good at arena are just like really good, or do you think that it's a completely separate pool? Like you can't compare constructed and arena players.
No, I think arena, there's like more places to make mistakes, so I actually think it's more representative of an all-around good player. Constructed is more like muscle memory and learning about specific matchups like mulligans, stuff like that. It's not really so much overall game sense. And a lot of times your deck will carry you, whereas in arena, like you have to build a deck in the first place. That's like another set of skills you need. I think like if you introduce two players that have never played a card game before to constructed in arena, I think the player will get good at constructed faster. But yeah, I think that it just depends for everybody, right? Like most players at a top level are good at both, but some players only play arena and they don't really know much about constructed. But if they're good at arena, they can learn constructed very quickly.
The skills are very translatable, but not identical, right? Like if you get good at constructed, then you do have some knowledge of the card pool, so you'll be okay at arena for sure, and you'll have understanding of things like tempo and card advantage and that kind of thing, whether consciously or subconsciously. But
yeah.
All right, we'll take a couple more and then we'll let Mr. Reynad get back to all of his business.
if you were stranded on an island, which Hearthstone card would you bring? I like this one.
Is it on my side? Like Deathwing, I guess. Pretty big.
That'd be massive.
He'd probably
Just
just
fly off the island.
yeah, or just be the island, you know.
Yeah.
Toast you.
I'd take
I
like
would bring. Oh, sorry, go.
I'd take Voodoo Doctor because he's cool, chill troll guy, and he can heal me. So there you go.
I would bring Grim Patron because all I'd have to do is punch him in the face, and then he'd bring more patrons along, and then together we'd build a raft and get off the island.
That's creative. He's got the axe too. You can cut down all the trees.
And like honestly, his name is Grim Patron, but he doesn't sound that grim. Like he sounds
Yeah.
super happy to get all his friends in here.
Hmm. They assume just because he's a Dark Iron Dwarf that he's grim. That's racist, frankly.
What about you, Kamsh?
Do I have to bring like a card, or can I bring like a hero, like Jaina or Valera?
Let's keep it to cards.
Let's go with cards, mate. I know. Where you're
I don't know. Yeah, probably just like a dragon could fly out of there, like Alex or like Deathwing.
Cool. Will TempoStorm be hosting any other esports events outside of Hearthstone, like Heroes of the Storm or Counter-Strike?
Yep, absolutely. It's a big part of what I'm going to do today is have a dinner with some people that I'm going to talk about our plans for that. And Heroes already have started with some contacts in Counter-Strike. But yeah, event hosting, outside of Hearthstone, inside of Hearthstone, it's going to be a huge part of our brand, and definitely, it's definitely going to happen soon.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, have you played much Heroes of the Storm? Do you
Yeah,
do you
I played it.
like it as a game?
I played it right when it first came out in alpha.
just-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right. Oh no, I'm just curious how you see the game developing, because obviously you have put some weight behind it by getting a team. So
Yeah, of all the competitive teams, ours have the most resources available to them by far, and they're the best team in the world, so they're making good use of it. But yeah, the game, right? So I played it when it first came out in alpha, and I was like, this is fucking terrible. It's clunky, the graphics suck, the maps aren't that fun. I don't understand why anyone would play this. But then they fixed like everything 6 months later, and I played it after that a lot, and I'm like, wow, this is legitimately the most fun I've ever had playing a MOBA. Like, this game is fantastic now. And it really is, like, every MOBA is more fun when you play with a group of 5, but Heroes especially, like, it's the solo queue experience maybe not quite as good, but like, it's just a fantastic game now, and it does so many things right, and it will definitely have a big future. And the thing with Heroes is that it will have a backing of a huge developer. The esports scene will, like, Blizzard has confirmed that they're pushing it as a esport, and with Blizzard's backing, like, whether you want it to be an esport or not, it can't fail. It actually just can't. Zero chance. So it will be big, and I think the game is super underrated. Like, if Dota and League players actually gave it a try for a few games, I think they would really appreciate like how good the game is. It really is just really well made.
Yeah, actually, I'm a huge League and Dota fan, and I just started playing it with Nocturne. Actually, it's pretty fun. Actually, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Murky's broken.
Which one's broken?
Murky, the little
Murky?
Murloc
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
He's so fun. I saw him, I'm like, gotta buy this guy, so I got him, and he's so fun.
But when you first look at it, like, as a Dota or League player, you're like, why would I play this? It's just like strictly worse. But then you actually play the game and you realize it's like it's pretty well made.
And there's a lot of variety too. Like in Dota and Hearthstone, I've been like, or in League of Legends, it's like the same game every time, but the different maps definitely shake things up.
Definitely.
And the objective-based gameplay, I think that's the most important thing for me. I really like the fact that you have to work together as a team. Like, one hero can't really kill another hero just because it gets overpowered, because everyone's on the same level. I like the fact that you have to work together as a team. Although sometimes I hate it when you're in solo queue and no one talks to you.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Lastly, is TempoStorm looking forward to Overwatch?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in esports is looking forward to Overwatch. Everyone knows it's going to be huge. Everyone knows that it will be an esport. I mean, everyone's looking at Overwatch. TempoStorm will not be able to outbid the bigger organizations for the best players, but we want to be a big part of the scene from the ground up. I think a lot of people do. But yeah, the game is like, it's kind of funny. Like, Blizzard is doing Team Fortress correctly with Overwatch, like everything that Valve should have done, just like Valve did everything with Dota that Blizzard should have done. So they're like getting him back at that. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
In the middle of it all, Riot's getting like fucked over and over because they were going to make a card game and then Blizzard beat them to it, and then they were going to make like a shooter and then Blizzard beat them to it, and they just keep scrapping projects.
Yeah. What do you think that is the biggest obstacle facing Hearthstone developing as an esport into the future? We're gonna have a quick answer for this.
I mean, I think people don't. How do I put it? We need more tournaments like Lord of the Arena and Challenge Stone, and less boring leagues. That's my opinion. And I think people are trying to just treat it like StarCraft when it's not StarCraft. Hearthstone needs to be its own unique thing.
Yeah. All right, cool. That'll do it. So you guys want to plug social media? I guess I'll start. You can find me on Twitter at notpjrivas, NOTPJRIVAS. You can find me on Twitch at ToobadHS. Nocturne, go ahead.
You can follow me on NocturneHS on Twitch and NocturneHS on Twitter.
Kamsh.
You can follow me at TheKamsh on Twitter. Check out my stream at twitch.tv/TheKamshHS if you want just like a bunch of mediocrity in the slums of Legend Ladder. And then check out all of our articles on TempoStorm.com.
And Reynad.
Tempo Reynad is my Twitter, and Reynad/Reynad27 is my Facebook. And my Twitch is Reynad27. And yeah, that's pretty much it. not going to be streaming today or maybe tomorrow, but yeah, I stream a lot.
All right, cool. And so we'll see everyone next time, and remember to stay legendary.